Hey everyone, this is Carla R. Jenkins. Welcome to an all new episode of Projectized, where I'm continuing my stakeholder series. The previous episode, I talked about identifying stakeholder process, the initiating domain, as well as its importance to project management. So now I'm going to get into the three parts. The first one is inputs, the second one is tools and techniques, and the third one is outputs. So today I'm going to talk about the inputs and the importance of the different communication plans. So as I mentioned, 90% of your job as as a project manager is communication, specifically communication with stakeholders. A stakeholder is a person or entity that can positively or negatively affect your project. And when it comes to stakeholders, you have to be able to make sure that they communicate in a way and via their method. So, for instance, let's take this as an example. So, we have people live and replay, and my audience is one of my stakeholders. I also broadcast via Lula TV. So, Lula TV is a stakeholder. It's important that I communicate on the different platforms with your stakeholders. And remember, you as a project manager and the project team is also a stakeholder too. And I'm bringing this about because I feel that, like I said in the last episode, one of the biggest part of failure when it comes to project management is that you stop identifying stakeholders. Hey, everyone, that you stop identifying stakeholders in the beginning and you have to do it throughout. So, I'm going to, of course, use the project management body of knowledge and highlight some of the things that are inputs specifically from the project management plan. So, the two important plans are communication management plan and stakeholder engagement. So, communications management plan obviously is how you manage your project communication is throughout the entire project. So as I mentioned, we have counting five domains. We have the initiating, planning, executing, monitor, controlling, and closing. And the communication plan manages everything from planning, executing, monitor, controlling, and closing. And that is a very significant input when you're talking about identifying stakeholders. It also talks about the methods and the ways and the appropriate channels, appropriate language of communication. A second one, which is just as important, is the stakeholder engagement plan, is how you're going to engage, communicate, and meet with stakeholders. Some stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle are going to be your experts. So, for instance, when you're doing the work in the executing domain, you may need to communicate more with that stakeholder versus the expert that is talking about process stability and whether or not the results that you written down in the planning domain in the project management plan is living up to the actual work that you're doing in the executing domain. So that's an example of why you need both the communication management plan as well as the stakeholder engagement plan. So those are some of the significant uh, inputs. Another one, of course, is always the project charter. And a little tip I want to give you is with identifying stakeholders or anything, when you're doing a plan, the two inputs that will always be there are project charter and project management plan. And then another significant input that I want to talk about are the business documents, such as the business case and the benefits management plan, which talks about the benefits of realizing your project, service, or result. These two are business documents, so the business analyst, not you, will be responsible for these plans. But these are very great cases of identifying stakeholders. Remember, you're still in the initiating or the beginning, so it's not fully developed, but those are some of the things that are inputs as well as your change log. It documenting any changes that happen regarding stakeholders entry and exit, any issues you may have that certain stakeholders can serve as champions. And then you also have your requirements documentation of what's required to complete this product or service. And other things that are important is the environment that you're in, whether or not you're the performing organization or you're fulfilling the contract as a project manager. Those are very important. So if you're in a company that is risk averse or is very nervous of risk, that would influence your identification of stakeholders. If you're risk neutral or risk aggressive, so those are some of the highlights regarding the inputs, or the first of three when it comes to stakeholders. Be on the lookout for the next episode in this series, which we will be talking about some tools and techniques to help you locate stakeholders. As I mentioned, I use this as an example, but also I'm going to use some additional examples so that you can better understand how you can apply project management and stakeholder management to that. So I would like to thank all live and replay viewers, and I always give a shout out to some of the live people such as Raul Nava, Brianna Ruiz, and 6040 from Periscope. Furthermore, 89 TV and JMJ 2121 from YouTube Live. I'd like to thank all of them for watching, as well as my live viewers. And remember, you can always catch Projectized Mondays through Fridays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Periscope, YouTube Live, and Instagram